Great. So in the interest of time, I think we are going to get started. You all can feel free to continue to let us know where it is that you are zooming in from. I'm just really excited for this conversation, and I want you all to get as much out of it as possible. So we are going to jump in to session 3 of the NPA Special Interest Summit on Social Science and Humanities Postdocs. This is the skills session entitled Transferable Skills for Multiple Career Choices. I'm Dr. Angela Crumdy. I'm a former postdoc from the Penn GSC, and I'm also a former National Postdoc Association IMPACT Fellow. So just some housekeeping rules in terms of how things can flow for us today. If you have any specific questions for our presenters, please enter them using the Q&A function, or if you like, you can just put them in the chat. And so during our conversation today, we might be able to address some of your questions throughout the course of the presenters speaking about their backgrounds, but we will also reserve some time at the end of our conversation to address any remaining questions. And just as a reminder, this session will be recorded and available on the NPA website. And so with all those little details out of the way, it is my pleasure to introduce you to you all, our speakers for this session. And so we have two. We will be joined by Dr. Fatimah Williams and Dr. Ilana HorwItz. And so I'd like to read their bios for you all just to give you a bit of background so you can start to think about maybe some potential connections you have with them and some questions that you might like to ask. So I will start with Dr. Fatimah Williams. So Dr. Fatimah Williams is an executive coach, speaker, and founder of Professional Pathways. Trained as a cultural anthropologist with over 15 years of consulting experience, she has advised organizations like the National Institutes of Health, the Urban League, and more than 30 colleges and universities on leadership development, organizational strategies, and career growth. Her thought leadership appears in both academic and popular outlets, including the Chronicle of Higher Education and Essence. A former career services leader at the University of Pennsylvania, she also has served on the board of the University of Virginia Alumni Association. Her newest book, Options for Success, published by Oxford University Press, guides PhDs through career transitions and the messy middle of reinvention. So looking forward to talk with you, Dr. Williams. And secondly, we have Dr. Ilana HorwItz, who is a sociologist of education and religion at Tulane University. Her first book, God, Grades, and Graduation, published by Oxford University Press, was praised by the Wall Street Journal and won a Distinguished Book Award from the American Sociological Association. She is also the author of The Entrepreneurial Scholar and Boys Alone, Girls Exhausted, The Hidden Architecture of Inequality in America. Her research has been published in leading academic journals, including the American Sociological Review, and in public outlets, including the New York Times. Dr. HorwItz holds a Ph.D. from Stanford University. So given all of that, I hope you all feel excited to speak more with them, to hear about their backgrounds, and to get some insight on making your career choice out once you finish your postdoc. So with that said, we're going to start off with kind of a big topic that a lot of postdocs struggle with even from the beginning of their time as a postdoctoral fellow, which is about deciding on a career path, going the academic route or maybe choosing a sector, whether that be nonprofit or industry. And so our first question is as follows. How might postdocs approach career decision-making when they're unsure whether to pursue academic or non-academic career paths? And feel free to bring in any of your own personal academic trajectory to kind of fill us in there.
Awesome. I will jump in and start that up a little bit. I will say one of the things that I just want to, I'm a pragmatist. So I'm going to say that right now to just kind of set the tone for how I'm going to respond to some of these questions. And so you get a sense of also truly my heart behind this work and how I'm approaching this. My concern as someone who works with PhDs and has done so for some time and is a PhD myself, my top concern is that you're doing work that you enjoy, that you're well compensated for, and that you feel has value. And so from the very outset for me, there's no one best way of working, academic or non-academic. It truly is, and my work really centers, what do you need? What do you value? How do you want to engage? in this particular season that you're moving into. So all of my kind of comments are going to be really around that. They're centered around you, the individual, not so much the career path itself, if that makes sense, right? I'm centering you first. So with that, I like to work with people and say, have a career decision-making rubric. And that really is, what do I need to thrive next? And truly knowing that, what kind of environment will work best for me, or cultures of working will work best for me? Who am I professionally? What do I want to contribute through what I know how to do and what my expertise is in? And so these kinds of questions, and the next one too is, who do I want to work alongside? Right. And the who really is, it tells you kind of how, in an arc of many ways that you could work on any particular topic, where do you want to be seated in sort of that arc of work? And I can give an example of that just to make it a little bit clearer. But the main point here is to say that the career decision making rubric really starts with you first. And then from there, you're able to evaluate your opportunities to say, what opportunities best allow me to do this and work in this way that will allow me to thrive for what I need now. And that matters as well as you're thinking about sort of work-life balance, how much in this season you're dedicating to work, how much you're dedicating to personal life, what you want to get out of your work in terms of compensation and other things. So it really is starting with you in that rubric, and then looking at opportunities that will shape and best fit that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Fatimah. I'm going to answer the question a little bit differently and give you a little bit more of my personal background. And I want to start actually with where Fatimah, something that she mentioned, which is that it begins with you. And I agree with that. But because I'm a sociologist, I also want to point out that it begins with you, but it also, career decisions are social decisions, and that there are decisions that you are going to make about your career based on what people expect of you and what people need of you. And that was very much true for me. I immigrated to the United States when I was 7. I grew up in a working class immigrant family. And for me, my sort of path to college was very much about socioeconomic mobility. And I got a very practical degree. I got a business degree. And I actually spent 10 years before my PhD working in the management consulting world. And I had a very sort of the kind of career that people expected of me and needed of me at the time. And then it was really in my very, very late 20s when I was pregnant that I was like, I think I want to get a PhD. And so when I went into academia, I actually had no intention of becoming an academic. I was not particularly intellectually curious. What I wanted to do was actually start my own consulting company. And I knew that having a PhD behind my name would give me credibility. And so that was my reason. And I honestly, like, I didn't understand what the PhD was actually about. I didn't really know people who had PhDs, and I didn't think I would be very good at it. And when I got to my PhD program, I really, I fell in love with it. And I developed a very different relationship with learning and school that I had ever had. And I'm happy to talk about that later. But I started to see myself as a producer of knowledge as opposed to just a consumer of information. For me, that was really pivotal. But throughout graduate school, and it was really kind of around my second year that I was like, oh, maybe I want to become an academic. I really love this. But as you're weighing the options, it's really important that you actually get some experience in industry outside of academia, especially if you've gone straight through. If you went straight from undergrad to either a master's or straight into a PhD and you haven't actually worked in the real world, I really, really encourage people to do that in some capacity. While you're a PhD student, is a great opportunity to, spend Fridays working somewhere else or some day of the week, or like spend a couple hours doing some sort of consulting work, but have your hands and your feet in kind of multiple things so that you can actually experience what life is like outside of academia. And that will help you both understand what your options are and actually have some practical experience so that if and when an academic job doesn't work out, if it doesn't, you don't necessarily have to see a career outside of academia as like the backup, or, oh, I couldn't make it in academia, so I have to do this thing, which is really bad for our self-esteem and our identity. Instead, that you view it as like, this is a great option. Like, I'm not sacrificing anything to pursue a career outside of academia.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I appreciate like the two kind of like pronged approach to like being reflective about who you are, but also thinking broadly about the world and where you want to situate yourself and being strategic while you're in the postdoc to expose yourself to different possibilities, I think is really smart. So Dr. HorwItz, something that you mentioned was about like outside voices, right? And who might try to influence your career path. So what advice do you all have for postdocs who might feel pressured from their PIs or from family members to stay in academia or elsewhere?
Yeah, I mean, I recommend in this book that I wrote, which is like a self-help guide for PhD students and postdocs primarily, I talk a lot about how so much of our, and it's based on interviews with about 45 people, some of whom have stayed in academia and some who didn't, and I use their real names so you know who they are. For so many academics, our sense of self is very much tied up and bound up with our academic work. And so we feel like our self-worth is very much part of our job. And so when our advisors, and I went to a grad school where it was at the time, I was in grad school from 2013 to 2019, it was seen that like, if you don't do academia, you have failed. This is what we are socializing and professionalizing you to do. There is no other pathway. And that was really hard for my friends for whom like it wasn't going to work out for a variety of reasons, and they had so much self-doubt. So I think you need to have enough self-confidence in yourself to say, my advisor and my PI is a voice in my life. Absolutely. And their opinion matters. But there are also other people who you need to find, you need to surround yourself with. I talk about scholarship as like a team sport because you need to have mentors who can give you advice in different dimensions of your life. And your PI is not necessarily going to be the person that does all that for you. So find these other people who can validate and help guide you through this career decision-making process. And sort of know that a job outside of academia is not failure. And it can be even a much better alternative. But surround yourself with people who can guide you through that process.
I think, though, this also speaks to the importance of having a network that's not just in your program. So we rely heavily on PIs, we rely heavily on dissertation advisors, we rely heavily on the people that we meet that have actually helped to move us through the academic process. And quite frankly, what we're talking about here at the very foundations of it too is, are you able to provide for yourself, your family, or whoever you're taking care of, or whoever is in your network, or whoever you're responsible for, right? And so for me, this is me, I want to be sure that I can manage that responsibility in a way that allows me um, to actually have options, right? I want to be able to have options to not only do the work that's going to be meaningful to me and that makes me feel like what I've invested in terms of my growth, my career growth, my knowledge base professionally is worthwhile, but also that I can do the very practical thing of taking care of myself. And so for the way I approach this question also is, the pressure is there. I'm not saying that it's not there from PIs or from mentors, or that pressure is not real, but that pressure also has to be balanced out with what is going to work well for your life, to move your life forward where you can live fully and live well, however you define well, whether that's well-being, whether that's a certain compensation band, whatever that is. And so for me, that confidence that Dr. Ilana talked about, that's sort of part of this, is having that confidence that while I do have mentors who have they do have a bit of a stake in where I go, right? So that's also there. Relationally, they have a stake, they've invested time. And also, my decision making is not just made based on that one relationship or the stake that relationship has. It is made in sort of a rubric of other decision making factors that I have as well.
Yeah.
And so, again, that's why having relationships that are not just in your academic world are really important, because what they also help you to do is see where you would fit in professionally outside of academia and other sectors and other positions and fields. It'll give you a lens, another lens to view what your options are. And so, yes, the pressure is real, but we get to balance that out a little bit with what are the other factors in this decision making, and what am I ultimately needing to get done here as well for myself, my family, my livelihood.
Yeah. Can I just add one more thing on top of what Dr. Williams so beautifully said? All of you here today, you are in charge of your life. You are the CEO of your future, okay? And so that means that you are the person that is the most important person to listen to. So I'll give you just like one example. When I was in graduate school, I wanted to go teach a class at a community college because I wanted to have a chance to be the instructor of record. And at Stanford, the way our RA ships are set up, I was not going to ever have the chance to be an instructor of record. And I was like, I'm going out to like the teaching profession. I need to have a chance to actually teach a real group of people. And I knew that was really important for being on the job market. And my professors, some of them said like, do not waste your time going to do that. That is, you should be working on your dissertation and publications all the time. And in my heart of hearts, I just was like, thank you for your opinion. And I'm not going to follow your advice, because I was like 30 years old and I felt like I had it in me to make that decision independently. And so I listened to them. And then I went and I still did the teaching. And I figured out a way to do it. And it was actually so incredibly beneficial for me for all sorts of reasons. But just like you are in charge of your life.
Oh, thank you
I
for
love that. I love that we have that parallel too. For me, it wasn't teaching, it was I really wanted to deepen my research methods. Now, how about I really, really wanted to deepen my research methods. I ended up taking a consulting job at the local hospital. They had a team of researchers who were sociologists, medical anthropologists, as well as maybe some other data analysis. And they had a position open. And no, I actually didn't ask for permission, right? I didn't even tell anyone I was going to do it because I knew what the answer was going to be. Because much like you, even though I finished before you did, much like you, it was very much the same. At an R1 institution, everything is about going toward the professoriate. So I didn't even ask. I didn't even let people know what I was doing. One, it was a great way to strengthen my research methods for my actual dissertation, but I also was able to make some extra money. I built my professional network, right? All these residual things that were really great and helped me, not just in the long run, but also immediately with relationships, extra cash. What grad student doesn't need a little extra cash? And it only strengthened when I went into the field as an anthropologist. I had more experience than just the in the classroom research methods class that we had. So
Amen.
another example to go in this hat of pressure, relationships, and experience.
Well, thank you for sharing those examples. So we have a section here on like professional identity and mindset. And so I think this is a perfect segue. And I'm wondering if you all could talk about how you developed this like entrepreneurial mindset, or just this mindset of like, I'm not gonna like follow what my PI is saying. How can postdocs develop an entrepreneurial mindset to support their own professional and career development?
Okay. Let me start with that one, since I wrote a book called The Entrepreneurial Scholar. And let me give a very clear definition of what I mean by entrepreneurial, because some of you might be thinking I'm going to talk about trying to make money. And that is not what I mean. When I say that I encourage people to be entrepreneurial, it means trying to generate ideas and produce ideas with very limited resources while navigating an environment of high uncertainty. That is what all of us do most of the time. And it's actually what a lot of entrepreneurs do, right? Generating ideas, limited resources, high levels of uncertainty. And to navigate that kind of world, I tell people that you need to ask yourself three things. Who am I? What do I know? And who do I know? This is basically leveraging your intellectual capital, your human capital, and your social capital to try to understand what resources you have at your disposal in order to make things happen for you. Because a lot of times we say to ourselves, oh, when the conditions will be perfect, when I have those kinds of budgets, when I have those kinds of, things that this kind of big resources, then I'll be able to do the stuff that I want to do. And I'm like, that's not going to happen. You're never going to have the perfect situation. I talk in the book about this idea of kind of a different thinking, where like you could be, imagine you're trying to make a dinner party, and you could take a recipe and go shopping for the food in the recipe and make X, Y, and Z. That is that's not always the way research works. Oftentimes it's like, what do I have in my pantry? And I'm going to put all that together, and I'm not exactly sure what's going to come out the other end, right? Exactly what's going to happen for this meal. What that means for you is, for example, like at one point I was overwhelmed with data, and I was like, I have more data than I can possibly imagine. I don't know how to make sense of it. I don't have and then COVID hit, and I had 2 young children, and I was like crying on the floor, and it was a mess. And then I realized that I was going to there was a bunch of Stanford students who had been sent home, who had lost their work study jobs, and I had been a student who had a work study, and I was like really dependent on that money. And I realized that I could hire a bunch of these students for free because of the way federal work study works, and that they would work for me as research assistants. And I basically employed an army of undergraduate students to help me sort of make sense of all my data. And I had a whole system for that. But that was one particular way in which I was trying to figure out, how do I creatively leverage the resources at my disposal without having a big cost associated with them to advance my work. So I'll leave it there, but those are the 3 questions to ask yourself. Who am I? What do I know? And who do I know?
Thank you for that. And I kind of want to zoom out just a little bit and to think about like professional identity. I think a lot of times as postdocs, we see ourselves just as researchers or students, or we might be, have an identity crisis after we get the PhD and we have no sense of like who we are at all. So can you talk a little bit about what role a professional identity can play in career transitions and development?
This is really important. And I'm glad that this is a question that we kept in here, because I think this ends up being like a major sticking point when academics, whether they're postdocs, whether they're going straight from grad school, or even faculty who are considering transition, because the identity of researcher and academic and scholar is so tightly wound with how we start to see ourselves, it can be challenging, one, to unwind a little bit from that, to even begin to explore options. So notice I didn't even say to make a career shift, but just to explore. It can be very challenging, because then we start to say, well, who am I if I'm not this, right? And so I think the first thing is being able to untangle a little bit the you from the what you do. That's not to say that they're not closely aligned, but you're actually you're able to move in different sectors. You're able to, and your skills are able to move in different sectors. But if we first don't have a sense of who you are and what is actually in your hand in terms of know-how, in terms of knowledge base, in terms of skill base, it can then be even hard to see a broader professional identity. And so a couple things that I say is having people look at their professional profile pillars. What do I mean by that? Professional profile pillars. I like to walk people through what are the top sort of 3 things you want to be known for professionally. So having a professional identity that's not so tied to what you do in terms of where you do it, right? The title, the job title, but more about the topics, skills that you have that you want to be known for. So as an example, I'll use this as an example for where I am right now. Executive coach is a primary thing that I want people to know me for, because that's something that people can call on me to do. Right. At one point in my career, I wanted to be known more as organizational development strategist, because that's more, both of them are true. But what do I most want to be people to know me for, so they know what to call on me for to do? And so for you, that might be something that's topically related with your research, but also I would say having a skills item in there really matters. So if you're really great at a particular approach in data analysis, that should be one of the things that's in yours. If you have another approach that works really well with what you do, or methodology that you use, or something that's just skills based, not just know-how based, I think it should be a collection of a few of those things together. So knowledge based and skills based, right? This allows you then to move at different points in your career, whether in academia or out, being able to have sort of a thread and a through line that's not based on where you are, right? So am I a researcher or am I a consultant? It almost doesn't matter, because the professional identity is based on these 3 or 5, no more than 3 to 5, just sort of key things I want to be known for professionally. It's a little more fluid for you, rather than anchoring them to a particular position or to a particular role.
Awesome. So
Yeah, I'll add that, right. you don't have the ability to predict the future. We have no idea where we're going to end up in our careers. It's really hard to predict. And so it requires a level of sort of adaptability in terms of your mindset and how you approach it. And so I will give you a specific example. When I was finishing up my PhD, I did not have a job. I had been on the job market twice. I had not succeeded on the job market. I had gotten a postdoc offer, but it would have required, this was pre-COVID, it would have required my family to, my husband was like, who, to be totally honest, was like the higher earner in our family. And he's like, you want me to give up my job for us to move to Boston for like a year for you to then have to start all over and I have to give up my salary? Like, that doesn't make any sense. That was really hard for me, but it was, that was the reality of our life. We had 2 kids we had to support. And so I went to my graduation and I came up with a plan, because during my PhD, I had been doing consulting work for most of the time. One of the consulting groups, I basically worked out an arrangement where I was going to work with them 20 hours. And because consulting pays so much better than academia, those 20 hours were basically the equivalent of a postdoc salary. And I said to myself, I will spend the other 20 to 30 hours of my life continuing to do publications. I maintained my graduate school affiliation. Like, I didn't confer my degree so that I could keep using the library, keep using the letterhead. I even was able to stay like living on campus. And I had this whole plan that I had to be really flexible about, because I wanted to kind of stay in the job market another year or two. And then I went to graduation and somebody came up to me, a faculty member, and was like, are you still looking for a job? And I was like, yes. And they were like, I think I just found you a very cushy postdoc on campus for the next 2 years. And 3 days later, I indeed had the most amazing postdoc that landed in my lap at the Stanford Center on Longevity. And that was really pivotal for me. I loved being a postdoc, but I had no idea that that was going to happen. So just know that you cannot predict the future. You can help shape it, but you have to be ready to sort of pivot and move along with all the changes that come.
I'm really glad that you shared your example there, because I think what it does too is it brings alive that kind of where we started, right? Like, knowing what you need and also knowing the context within which you're making your decisions, because you were able to be flexible and adaptable because you already had a sense of, okay, what do I want? I still want to continue to publish. I still want to go after this career. And then it allowed you the space to be creative within it, rather than stuck in, if it doesn't happen this sort of perfect way, it will not happen at all. And I think that kind of flexibility and mindset helps to create options, right? It helps to create some options for you. And that's not to say that for everyone it's going to work out the way it did for you, but what it at least models, I think, for people is having a little bit of giving yourself some time as well to run a game plan, right? To run not even a plan A, B, but it's like, this is just a pop-up, right? This wasn't on the radar, but I'm gonna get creative, see what's possible. And then from there, I can maybe readjust, reassess, and see what needs to happen. And I think if more people were honest, like in our position, right, on panels like this, we're honest about the ways that we've been flexible with our careers, I think it might also take some pressure off of those who are attending and having to make some of those same decisions. As much like you, I didn't do, I mean, I won't go too much into mine, but I had a postdoc. I actually decided not to take the postdoc that was offered to me. Similar kind of situation, couldn't move my family, et cetera. But I also knew that I was making an exit out of academia. I really wanted to be in another professional setting. I felt like the academic path for me was a little bit too slow to be able to get some things done professionally that I wanted to do, and quite frankly, to use some of my best skills. I felt like I would have to be tenured to be able to do some of the things I really wanted to do. So that for me gave me another set of decision-making rubrics. That's why I'm sharing this, right? Mm-hmm. So different from yours, but similar in the sense of being flexible about what comes next and how you do. So I actually ended up getting a role, which was perfect for me. Nonprofit and philanthropy, kind of working in that space. I didn't have to move. It gave me a professional salary, but because it wasn't that it was not challenging, but I'm used to high performing. As a PhD, you're used to doing a lot in quite a short amount of time. So I continued to publish. I continued to go to academic conferences, but I had an employer. I had a 9-to-5 job. So my funder for things was a little bit different, but it gave me room to see, do I still want to stay here? Am I okay with my decision to have gone the non-academic route? Because I was still active in publishing and I kept an affiliation with my university, but they called it like I don't know, it wasn't an adjunct role, but it was like a researcher, kind of like visiting researcher role, which gave me access to libraries, et cetera. I still, because the pace of academia, I still looked like I could have been on a postdoc because I was still producing publications. So all that to say, to anyone in the audience, I hope that one of the things you take away from here is that, and especially any kind of economy, but you will hear me say this word often, options. That's why my book is called Options for Success, because you want that adaptability, flexibility to know how can I get done the thing I want to get done. There's many pathways to be able to do it, even though it seems like we've gotten into this academic versus non-academic kind of dichotomy. There's ways that you can still move forward in integrity, right? Both of the things that we did were in integrity to what we needed to get done and also to the work that we were doing, academic and non-academic, right? So I hope that that's a big takeaway, that you do have options for being able to move forward and allow that to unlock a bit of creativity and how you can get there.
This is great. Thank you for sharing that. One thing that I know is important to being able to be flexible and to be creative is the network that you have, right? The people that you have around you. So I'm wondering if you all could talk a little bit about how postdocs can approach networking, and if you have any suggestions on if we should be approaching networking differently based on the sector that we're interested in going into.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to start with the term networking because people are so put off by the term because it's seen as like I'm trying to extract value from you, and it feels very icky to people, right? They hate the idea of networking. And I want to suggest that you try to reframe the idea of networking in your mind as not that you're trying to get something out of somebody, but that you're actually trying to learn from them, possibly collaborate with them, and offer something in return. And it's not always like you do this for me, I do this for you, but that you pay it forward. I treat every sort of interaction that I have as like, I'm going to have a chance to learn from this person. Maybe I will collaborate with them. Maybe I'll be able to help them. And maybe at some point they'll be able to help me. I think it helps that I came into academia later. And so I already had experience kind of getting to know a lot of people in different industries. But when you are trying to develop relationships, and for me, if you look at my CV, you will see that all of my publications almost are collaborative. I view scholarship as a community sport. I do not view it as an individualistic endeavor. And so that means many different things. It means that I actually will collaborate with people, undergrads, grad students, faculty. And it also means that I have this like big network of people who give me different points of advice. I have people who I go to for book writing advice. I have a coach, like a mentor who does this and this. But when you are thinking about developing relationships, first of all, like in a very practical level, you want to develop relationships with people horizontally and vertically. Horizontally, that literally means like when you go to a conference, you want to be meeting people who are of your level. And then vertically means you want to be meeting people who are above you and have power, right? But just like meeting the big people in your field is really stressful and it doesn't always buy you very much. And actually, some of my most generative collaborations, I'm actually here at a higher ed conference in Denver. And all my reason for being here actually stemmed from somebody that I ended up talking to several years ago at a sociology of education conference. We became like really close colleagues. We share all sorts of ideas with each other, and we ended up deciding to do a panel together. So that kind of horizontal collaboration and networking is really, really important. But just like if you think of yourself as, oh, academia is so lonely, I want you to try to think of your work as a much more collaborative endeavor and view scholarship as a community sport.
And I'll approach this from the networking to me is relationship building. right? And perhaps it's just a curiosity for people, you know, or just my own curiosities. Like when I'm encountering people, I'm wondering, oh, something sparks that makes me want to know more about what they're doing. There's a reason why those sparks happen, right? They're usually probably something that either I'm working on or I'm in progress with or whatever. But what I will say here in terms of networking and relationship building is one, you want the relationship before you need what the relationship could do for you. Does that make sense? You want actually to have people that you know and who know you. That's really important because we think a lot about relationship builder networking. It's like, oh, I've collected all these business cards. Well, do you know these people? Have you had any interaction with them? Even if it's just light touch points periodically with update emails, or light touches periodically with LinkedIn, where you follow them, they follow you. There's a little bit of exchange on things that they post or that you post. It doesn't have to always be heavy, right? But what I like to say is you want to know, who do you know? But I like to reverse it a little bit and say, who knows you and what you do?
Mm-hmm.
Who knows you and what you do? I know Beyonce, but she doesn't know me and what I do, right? Now, thankfully, I don't need her for anything. But if it was someone in my field or that I wanted to collaborate with, if I know them, but they don't know me or what I do, it kind of stops that ability to work together. And so in terms of like how to approach it, with non-academic careers, I'm going to get a little pragmatic here. And one of the things that I hope that you take away from this is while you're in your postdoc, or even if you're still in a graduate program, you're in sort of a place of safety, right? You have a title, you have a name, you have something you're working on, you've got something that's going for you and that you're doing. You're not between gigs, so to speak. So you want to use that, be able to leverage that you have something already. You're not in need of anything right now. So that means this is the best time to develop your relationships for where you're trying to go next, or for the things that you're trying to create, whether it's articles, whether it's, I want this particular kind of job when I'm done, and allow that curiosity though to be honed into, here are the top 1, 2, or 3 places where I'll go to just meet some people who do the things that I'm interested in doing, or who are already kind of seated in the roles that I would like to be in, or who might be great collaborators. The idea being, one, developing the relationships before you need to tap into them. And that also allows for a bit of authenticity, right? So you're not going in thinking transactionally, but truly allowing curiosity and goals to drive the relationship. And also getting you out of your immediate, sort of your immediate circle, as we were talking about earlier, your program or your mentors or your PI or your lab, but really moving you outside of that and saying, if there are other people who are doing similar work, or who are using similar skills as me, or who are doing the roles that I would like to be doing, where do they live? Whether that's online, whether that's at conferences, whether it's regional events. And again, I'm speaking here, this is academic and non-academic, but I really want to focus on the non-academic, because what ends up happening is I see people wait, they decide sort of very late in the game that, oh, I want this career outside of academia. But they decide they want it at the time that they actually need it. And they've not taken the opportunity that they have while in a postdoc and they don't need anything to develop those relationships. So something as simple as looking at professional associations for the career that you might be interested in. They've got regional meetings. They have, or even going to pop-up, kind of, I call them in the book, social professional events, right? Things that pique your interest, that aren't particularly like networking events, because those can be a little weird, but they're more interest-based, or topic-based. So like talks, or, I recently went to something that was like with urban designers and architects. I'm not doing anything in that field, but if I were interested, wow, what a great place to actually physically be walking around and talking to people and looking at models and people who are already working in the space, right? So taking the time, the space that you have before you need the relationship to actually develop the relationship is a really great way to go. And I'll tell you this, it also gives you an opportunity to practice what we were talking about earlier, that professional identity and those professional pillars, right, of your identity. What resonates with people? What might I need to shift up that people aren't understanding of how I'm presenting myself professionally, what I do, what I'm interested in, the kind of work I'd like to do? it allows you the practice before you actually need to tap into the role, the collaboration, the job.
Thank you for that. That's like super helpful. I want to get our audience members thinking about questions that they want to ask our panelists. So feel free to write those in the chat. And I'll ask our panelists just one more question as you all are thinking. And so this question, again, we're in a smart skills session, so I want to continue to think about skill sets that postdocs can utilize right now or develop. But how can postdocs start, and you've spoken about this already a bit, but how can postdocs begin to develop transferable skills that keep multiple career options open?
I would love to jump in here. So I have two ways of kind of approaching this question. One, to say there's no one set of transferable skills, right? I feel like this question can be a little bit misleading because one, where are we trying to transfer the skills to, right? That matters as to what skills you're going to be honing, developing, or even identifying within which you already have, right? So that's one thing I want to say is like, yes, there's this there are sort of general job skills, if you will, and I want to point to a few of those that I think are important. But I do want to say what can be a little bit challenging about answering this question for yourself around transferable skills. What are they? Which ones do I develop? It can help to have at least a sense of where you might like to go with these skills that can help you to really identify the ones you have and also have a plan for strengthening them. That's one. But if I were held to the fire and had to say there's just some skills that you just need to have, and this is my experience professionally, working in consulting, having my own business, and then also helping people to transition out of academia into job skills, and even academics who are, let's say, faculty members and moving into administrative roles, there's some key things that I see that had they learned these core skills, they would have a much easier job doing the work that they're called to do. So a couple of them, and I'm just going to look at my list because there's a few. One of them, it seems very simple, but knowing how work works. Knowing like how work works. I know it doesn't seem like a skill, but being able to understand workplace cultures and how to even understand like what you're looking at when you see a workplace culture can be very, very helpful. Project management skills. And I know everyone wants to tell PhDs, oh, but you manage projects all the time. You know, you've written a dissertation or you've done projects. I'm going to be the one to tell you yes, and or not quite. When I say project management skills, I really am talking about project management skills using the language of project management that you would find in a professional workplace. So yes, do you manage projects? You do, but you want to be able to understand a bit of the architecture of how project management is actually talked about in a professional setting. Why does that matter? Because that's the translation, not just of the skill, but being able to use the skill effectively in the role. So project management skills, if you're not sure about that, there's tons of like certifications or even just small classes that you can take, like on LinkedIn, LinkedIn Learning and things that you probably have free access to right now. But I would say it is worth a look, even if not a deep dive into a PMP certification. And I stand by this wholeheartedly, any professional should have a sense of how to build a project from start to finish and understand how to enroll others in that project and be aware of when there's derailments and how to get back on track. That and having a coordinated way to do that and keep a team together is very, very important. The other one, AI use for business and whatever your business is, right? Whatever the thing you're doing is, but being able to leverage AI in a smart way, not just kind of tinkering around with it. The other one I would say is budget management. Do you know how to create, read, look at spreadsheets, understand how money gets moved, allocated, creating budgets? It seems like something that would be far from maybe a role that you might pick up, but I guarantee you having a sense of even just basic kind of budget flow and management understanding helps you to sit in any seat, whether that's a committee member, as a faculty person, as a researcher managing your own grant, or as someone who's, I'm just going to keep picking on consulting in the professional world, it helps you to understand decision making at a much more detailed level and helps you to be more of a value add and an asset in a strategic way. So I'm going to stop sort of there, but those are some just core, no matter where you go, you're going to need some of these skills.
I'll add to this, not by talking about specific skills, but making a case that you are, almost all of you, I imagine, are at a university, and you have the gift of being able to take advantage of your university resources right now to probably learn some of these skills. You can audit classes. I would like go to everything you can possibly go to. When I was a postdoc, I audited classes. I took classes in the theater department, the communications department. I did an improv class. I went to seminars in the business school. Like, there was no shortage of things to learn. And so I took the opportunity to really like diversify my skills portfolio while I was at an institution where I wasn't having to pay anybody anything.
And I will tell you, the paying anybody anything, it is a sticker shock for many academics when they see how much it actually costs to do some of this professionalization and professional upskilling. So even that project management certification that I'm talking about, these are things that could cost you thousands of dollars, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, even thousands of dollars. Why not be targeted, focused, and say, if I only had time to do 2 or 3 things in this full year, 2 or 3 top skills, they're there, they're free, get them done now. I'm so with you, Dr. HorwItz. I'm so with you on that. The sticker shock can be very jarring for people.
I think that's a great call to action for anyone who is still currently in their postdoc or has a university affiliation. Like, take advantage of those resources that you have. I got headshots done before my postdoc ended because normally that cost a lot of money, but it was free at my institution. So in the last few minutes that we have, I want to do a final call for questions.
We have resolved all their problems and existential crises.
That's great.
There's got to be something.
And in the meantime, I'll also say I put my URL here I do a monthly newsletter where I share sort of professional development and leadership tips that can really just support you. It's informational based. And the whole point is to help support you through being able to make career decisions, and not just from the perspective of in the university, but I'm looking at it from the professional, helping you to come toward professionalization. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm also just putting back in a link to my book and a 30% off discount code. The book is only $20, so that gets it down substantially even from that, to help you on your journeys.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So because though there are no questions, you all have resolved all of our uncertainties. We're going to end 2 minutes early. Oh, absolutely. So we have a question. Thank you, Claire. So this has been amazing. Thank you so much for this advice. Do you have one main takeaway that you can leave with us?
Get started now. Choose. You don't have to do everything, but choose something and just do at least one thing, one actionable item. You're in a great place right now. If you're in a role, you're in a position, you're in a great place, take advantage of it. Get started now.
I'll echo and I'll say, schedule 2 informational interviews. I love what Dr. Williams said about that you are in a safe space right now because you are not desperate for a job. So when you try to reach out to someone and say, like, can we have like a 15-minute coffee date or something like that? They're not like, oh, they want something out from me. They like need a job. This is going to be annoying. You're really like coming at it from a place of curiosity. So this is the time to do that. So go on LinkedIn. If you're not on LinkedIn, find 2 people who can connect you to other people whose work you are interested in. That's much better than cold calling them. Right. Find those second connections and ask someone to make an introduction and ask them about their jobs.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for everyone who offered their questions as well and reactions in the chat. And so we have one more session. And thank you all for attending session 3 of the NPA Special Interest Summit on Social Sciences and Humanities.
Yes, thank you, everyone. And just a reminder, the last session starts at 4:05 p.m. Eastern. It is a separate Zoom link. Just thank you to our panelists and our moderator for this session, and we look forward to seeing you guys in panel 4. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.